Hey Bookish Babes, and welcome to my book nook.
We are monsters. We give and we take.
For those that are new around here, the name's Rainy. I read all different types of books from all different types of genres, so if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe down to my channel. It really helps my channel grow. Today's video was inspired by, I can't remember who I first saw do it. I might have saw Peace Love Books do it, and then I saw Haley Hughes do it, and then I saw like one other person do it, and I decided I wanted to jump on board and do it, and it is, what are the 15 books that define my personality or my reading taste, as you will. So basically it's like the creme de la creme. The books that I hold near and dear to my heart that I think really define my reading taste, what I like about books. Also just gave me like all the 5-star feels, of course, because like I don't think any book on here got less than a 5-star, because obviously not. Like they're my entire personality. Some of them I'm sure you will have already expected to be on here. In fact, if you want to guess which books you think are already on here in the comments, that would be funny if you got them right, or let me know how many you get right at the end. And some of them you might be like, oh, I didn't realize that you held this book as near and dear to your heart as you do. So without further ado, let's get started. I forgot to say this before I started talking about books, but I did categorize these by like genres. And so the first genre that you're going to see is thriller, and then we're going to go into fantasy, and then romance, and then other, as in like, there's just like other genres, okay? Okay. Let's start with one that had to be on here because I made it literally my entire reading personality in 2023. I think, or 2022 actually. I think I had everybody try to read this book. Other People's Clothes by Miss Calla Henkel. I love this book. I love this book so very much. Is it even that crazy of a book? Is it, I don't know. It's honestly, it made me discover my love for character-driven books because this is very character-driven. It is a rich people, drama-esque, socialite thriller, which I'm all about. And I don't know, this one just really hit it for me. Honestly, I need to reread this because I just had so much time with this. But it basically is a mockery slash like social commentary on the Amanda Knox case. So if you know anything about that, then that is what this one is about. But I will say it's kind of pretentious, and honestly it just worked for me. So like you can't go into this like expecting like, I don't know, a masterpiece of literature, but you can expect a very good time. And I'm waiting for Miss Henkel to deliver like another book to me. Like, what are you doing keeping me in this prison cell of only having this book? And there is another cover, the UK edition, that I want to own because like I love this book. Like I honestly want to get a quote, every night in Berlin is a night in Berlin, like tattooed on me at some point, because that's like a very popular quote in here. But anyway, this book is fabulous. If you have not read it, take the time to do so now. Another one that follows close behind that I read very soon after that also just continued to show my love of character-driven novels is Blood Sugar by Sasha Rothschild. I also need to reread this. I need to reread all of these books. They're just that good. So this one is about main girl Ruby. She's in an investigation for the murder of her husband because her husband is dead. Found dead in their house. And she's like, well, I didn't kill that one, but I killed 3 other people. But like nobody knows about the 3 other people. And so it's kind of just like a life exploration through like how she happened to murder those 3 other people and like what actually happened in real life with her husband and how she like navigates it. And it's like an intense character study on Miss Ruby. And I was just here for it. Like I said, the plot's not very strong. It's a lot of storytelling, a lot of character development, but like I am here for a good for her, like feel good like thriller, okay? It was just good. It gave me also those rich people vibes. It just was so fun. I sped through this so fast. I just loved my time with it. Once again, don't take it too seriously. It is so good though. So if you have not read this, it's fabulous. Now where would we be without our ultimate, unhinged, weird, defining book? Bunny by Miss Mona Awad. This honestly changed the game for me, okay? Because this showed me my love for weird books. Now I will say, the first time I read this book, did not understand a lick of it. I actually listened to an entire live show with Katie Colson where she explained this book to me in great detail, and then I reread it, and I loved it so very much, and I had a much better time with it. And it's honestly pure genius, the allegories and all the things and the metaphors and everything that is interweaved into this beloved book. If you don't know what this is, it's a dark academia about a girl named Samantha who basically joins this clique of unbearable, sinister college girls who call each other Bunny, and weird things start to happen in this cult, of course, as one would happen. Anyway, it is so good, but it is so weird. It sparked my love for weird books, and I'm not like a fan of every weird book out there because there are certain people, like Stephen Graham Jones books, that just don't do it for me. But I loved this. I loved Catherine House. I loved House of Hollow. Like, I love a good, weird book, okay? Most of the time, I will probably end up liking it if it gets a little weird. So, I have to accredit that to Bunny. This was the one that opened my eyes to it. And I'm very happy to have read this bad boy. Alright, it's time to bring a king onto the stage. And that is The Silent Patient, okay? I don't care. I don't care if you're gonna call me basic for this. This was the thriller that honestly re-sparked my love for reading, and so I hold it really near and dear to my heart. Because I only started rereading, or reading, like, a lot again about 4 years ago, and this was the first thriller that I picked up since not having read, honestly, in years. I hadn't read in years. I just hadn't been prioritizing it. And that twist, jaw on the floor. Like, I still think about that twist to this day, about how crazy it is that I didn't see that coming. Now, if I was to read it now, and I didn't know the twist, but I've read so many thrillers since then, would I still have been gooked and gagged? I don't know. But I was at the time that I read this, okay? I was at the time that I read this. If you happen to live under a rock and you don't know what this is about by now, it's about a girl named Alicia, and basically her life seems perfect until one evening her husband comes home from work and she shoots him 5 times in the face, and then she never says another word ever again, and she's at a psychiatric institute, and we have our main psychiatric dude, Theo, who basically gets inspired by her story and decides, I'm going to be the therapist that finally gets her to talk and confess about why she shot her husband. And when I tell you what happened in this book is pure, it's wild, okay? If you just haven't read this yet, please read it. Please read it. It's so good. I don't care what people say. It's so good. Okay, let's talk about one of my favorite authors of all time now. I read all of her books this year. There is a specific vlog catered to this ma'am, and that is Cackle by Rachel Harrison. This is actually the first book that I read by her, and it inspired me to read the rest of them because I wanted to do a taste test for her anyway, and I'm so glad that I did because I'm obsessed with her. She's an all-time favorite author. Almost all of her books have gotten 4 or 5 stars from me, and this one was my favorite. So I read the first one first, which is like a gem. Anyway, this is a fabulous book, okay? I just love it. It's like a cozy horror, which I never thought I'd hear coming out of my mouth saying that I liked something cozy, because we all know I'm not a cozy fantasy girly, but this one was so good. So this one is about Annie, and she gets dumped by her longtime boyfriend. She decides she needs a fresh start, and so she takes a new teaching position and basically moves all the way across the other side of the US, and she meets this girl named Sophie who's like charming, and of course she's magical because she's a witch, and it's just more about their friendship and sisterhood and like righting the wrongs of exes and just like kumbaya and stuff. It's just magical, okay? It really warms, it warms your heart. It's so good. It's cozy, like I said. It feels like a warm hug, but it's also like witchy and mysterious and spooky, and you know, has that little side of like horror in it. And there's a lot of spiders in this, so if you're not a spider person, this might not pertain to you. But I had a fabulous time with it, and I can't wait until her new vampire book releases in September, October. You better believe I'm prioritizing that ASAP. Well, if we're going to talk fantasy, then we're going to talk about my #1 book of probably all time, the creme de la creme, the reason that this video honestly happened. And if you don't know what book I'm about to say, I don't know if you know me at all. And that is Miss Serpent in the Wing of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And yes, this is a special Owl Crate edition. And yes, I have 2 more special editions probably on their way to me very soon for this series. Did I need them all? Yes. Yes, that I did. That I did. But anyway, if you don't know what this one is about now, it's about a girl named Araya, and she lives with the Vampire King and lives in a world full of vampires, and it's not very safe for her, obviously, as a human. And so she decides to enter the Kajari, which is kind of like this Hunger Games-esque tournament where whoever wins gets a wish given from like the goddess of like their whole world. And so she of course decides that she wants to enter the trial so that she can either, I think, become a vampire so that she can be safe in the world, or like whatever, her wish is something like that. And of course she's a human, she's weak, so she has to tag team with this vampire named Rain in the trials, and they both have a reason for like helping each other out, and it's their enemies to lovers romance. When I say I love this book, I love this book, okay? I love it. I love me a bat boy. I love a good moment. Everything about this book is just fabulous, okay? So believe me when I say, if you have not managed to read this book yet, drop everything you're doing. I mean drop it. Drop it now. Get rid of that book. Toss it out the window. Go read it. Now, if we're also going to talk about fantasy, we also have to talk about my other most beloved fantasy series of all time. and that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This was one of the first fantasy books that I read. I would consider it a denser fantasy, but it's not as epic of a fantasy as like other fantasy series. And I was scared I wasn't going to be able to follow this because it was like 50, 60 pages in and I was lost in the sauce. But as any epic fantasy or dense fantasy person knows, you have to keep going. And then all of a sudden it's going to make sense to you. And that is exactly what happened. And then I fell in love. This also sparked my interest for urban fantasy like Crescent City. Basically, fantasies books, they take place in the modern world, but they have a splash of magic, as this is. And so this one has to center around Jade and how everyone uses the resource Jade to like fuel their magic. But Jade, of course, is forbidden and it's illegal in certain places. And, you know, you have the two basically gang lord families that are trying to harness all of the Jade. And it's like a great war that's going on and all of the stuff. And of course, there's a good side, a bad side. And it's like the big epic war that's going on between them all. It is, when I tell you that this book you love, you fall in love with all the characters, you fall in love with the world, but also get known that you can't get too attached to these characters because Miss Fonda Lee will just break your little heart and kill these people without even giving you a second time to say goodbye, okay? So like, say a prayer, shed a tear for them, and then you gotta move on with your life and you gotta keep picking up the pieces. Now, while I'm putting Jade City on here, because this is my favorite so far, I haven't read Jade Legacy yet because I'm scared to let the book go. This is fabulous. I can't say enough good things about this series. Okay, the next one I have on this list, I don't actually have with me because my friend is borrowing it. However, I've put a reminder on my phone to get it back from her before she moves in July so that I can have my beautiful copy back. And that is Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin. This is the first Rachel Griffin I've read. Since then, I've read another one of her books, and I need to finish her other book because I am obsessed with her. She writes a beautiful, witchy romance, YA, but you know what? Doesn't even bother me. And this just made me obsessed with her. It was a witchy romance with an interesting magic system and a Romeo and Juliet type situation, like, say less, okay? Now, the thing that I love the most about Rachel Griffin's books is that they all correspond to magic through, like, nature. So, for example, Bring Me Your Midnight, their magic is harnessed through the tide of the moon and the ocean. And then in the nature of witches, it's all controlled through like the elements like air, wind, fire, all of that. And then I have one more that I need to read and I can't remember what it's controlled through, but I really love how she brings the elements of nature into her witchy magical stories. And this one is just so good. I don't know if it was just that I read it at the right time or that it gave me the feelings I needed to feel, but like this was a magical, whimsical time. And yes, it is very insta-lovey. But once again, it's YA. Just push past that and the rest of it is a fabulous story. I can't say enough good things about this fabulous, fabulous book. I feel like this one is kind of giving away how much I loved this book, but you know what, we're just going to go with it, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And I loved this book so much. It was so unique to me with its magic system and the tarot cards. I had never read anything like it. It was very slow burn. It just did what it needed to do for me, okay? I just love a book like this. Like, this was the perfect example of like slow burn, a magical world that hasn't been done 500 million times before. I am just obsessed with everything about this book. It was the perfect amount of fantasy, the perfect amount of slow burn, the perfect amount of romance, the perfect amount of everything. And so this one is about Elspeth, and basically she has this nightmare, like tarot card character hanging out in her head ever since she was little, and it like tries to control her, but it can't fully, and he keeps her secrets but helps her when she needs help. And then she meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest, and she ends up having to partner with him for reasons that I can't say. And so it's like obviously their love story, but like this book, I'm telling you, I've not seen anything like it before. It is a standout, fabulous novel, and I cannot wait to read book 2. This is just, I don't have words, honestly. Okay, the next book, I'm holding up a different book for it because it's at the bottom of my Sophie Lark stack, which Sophie Lark is like one of my favorite authors, and this is the book that I happen to have out because it's the next one I need to read in the series. But just know that I'm talking about book 1, Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, which is the first book in the Brutal Prince series. So we've moved on to romance. This was my first mafia romance. It was also, I think, my first dark romance foray, and I just had the best time with it. So it follows Ada and Callum, and Ada and Callum are on different sides of the mafia. I think one's Italian and one is, I can't remember where the other one is from. But basically, you know, their mafia families don't like each other. And they end up having to have an arranged marriage in order to, like, stop the families from fighting nonstop. And, like, when I say it's enemies to lovers, like, it is enemies to lovers. Like, she does something at the wedding that if you know, you know. And all I'm going to say is strawberries. Okay? It is very enemies to lovers, unheated and smutty, and it was just a fabulous magical time. And I remember reading that and going, oh wow, like this is what dark romance is like, and it entered me into my dark romance journey, and I'm so glad that it did. And since then, I've read very many Sophie Lark books. I'm obsessed with her. I collect everything that she has. I had to collect all of these before the Beautiful Men covers went away, obviously. And so you can't go wrong with a good smutty mafia story. Let's not also forget the other dark romance book that basically inspired my love for a good piratey romance time, and that is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin, which my wonderful friend and subscriber Jean gave for me for my birthday. Thank you so very much. Now I will say please check the trigger warnings on this one because there are 1,000,001 for this book, but this one is about Bennett, and she is on the run. It's a very dark story as to why, except for she's running away from Priest Pharaoh. And he is just coming after her, and she has to get away from him, so she gets onto this ship, but then she ends up getting captured by a pirate hunter named Lord Ashley Cutler, and she has to escape him, but she also, you know, there might be a little love situation happening there. And this, I just realized I love a good piratey romance after this. I've read several pirate romance books since then, and I don't know what it is about it. I don't like books where people are on a journey on a boat and that's all it is. But I do love when there's a good smutty time. Like I loved A Ship of Bones and Teeth, which almost made it onto here. And I also loved The Ever King, which almost made it onto here. But this is like the one that like sparked them all, and like I'm very obsessed with this book. Like the romance in this book just has my heart. And I can't even say because it's kind of a spoiler, but like this book is magical, okay? So if you want like a kind of more historical-esque fantasy romance that has a good like swashbuckling time, yes, I said swashbuckling, you can pay me $1 if you want to hear it again, then yeah, go ahead and read this beauty. Okay, we didn't honestly think we were going to get through this whole series without addressing the main romance girly pop, like the scene, the moment, the queen, right? Magnolia Parks by Miss Jessa Hastings. And this doesn't even do justice to how much I love this book, because honestly, I need to re-annotate because this is not a good job. And I'm going to have to rebuy them anyway because, you know, the last book is only available in the UK and, you know, is way bigger than everything else. Anyway, this one, if you don't happen to know, is about Magnolia and BJ and their very toxic relationship. There's a reason that they are not together that I cannot say because it is said in this first book. And there is no smut in this. This is a closed-door romance, and it's very toxic. It's very Gossip Girl-esque, very rich Manhattan socialite type celebrity A-list drama. But I'm just here for it, okay? I'm just here for it. The writing, the quotes, it's exquisite. That's really all I can say about this book. However, I can't say that it's for everyone because it's very pretentious, very hoity-toity, very just no plot, very character-driven, okay? So, like I said, I'm into a character-driven romance. But this is like everything I want in a book and more. I just am quite literally obsessed. And then I have to put my other favorite romance series on here, and I'm putting the second book, even though I kind of debated putting the fourth book, because I think I love the fourth book more. But this is when this is the book that really solidified this series and its place in my heart for me, and that is Heartless by Elsie Silver. I love a good cowboy romance when it comes from Elsie, and I have this edition, I have the Mirrors edition, and I have the special dark and quirky, beautiful, beautiful editions. I will try to post a picture right here that are coming to me very soon. Okay, so to say that I'm obsessed is an understatement. But this one follows Willow and Cade, and this is a single dad type situation where he doesn't, you know, he needs a nanny full time, and Willa is the friend of Summer from the first book, and she decides to end up being his nanny, and it's their hot, steamy romance, and her bonding with his son, and just their whole interactions together and everything. It was just so magical, okay? I just love Daddy Cade. I just do. Like, save a horse, ride a cowboy, ye freaking ha! This book, it's just so good. And it's so soft, and I love how she writes her characters in these. Like, they're very, like, these are like book boyfriends for life, okay? Like, this is what we want every man to aspire to be, okay? Every man needs to aspire to be like a Cade, a fellow Cade in here, okay? Cade Eaton. But yeah, if you haven't read this yet, you can join the Chestnut Springs Along series that, you know, Claire, Brittany, and Leandra are doing next month, because that's the best time to read these things. And now we're at the last section, which is considered Other, and I have 2 books left. And of course, I can't get away without saying one of my favorite books ever, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I don't even care how basic this is. This was the main book that sparked my love back for reading again. I read this, and then I read Silent Patient. What a knockout of a month for me. I was living, laughing, loving, crying. But this one is about Evelyn Hugo, who is a Hollywood actress celebrity from like the 40s, and she's Hispanic, Latina, and it just tells her story of like why she has 7 husbands. Basically, she has never had an interview about it. She finally picks this random reporter girl to like catalog her whole entire story. Like she tells her whole story to her, and there's a whole purpose for it. It's very sad. It's just beautifully told, and it also just tells us our struggles with like being a woman of color in the acting world, and also just being a woman in the acting world in those times, because there were tons of issues on that. It was great commentary, and literally I wanted to read this at like stop signs, stoplights, in my car. I wanted to read this everywhere. Of course I didn't do that, but I wanted to read it everywhere. And so this book just holds a very special place in my heart for like instilling my love of reading again. And so if for nothing else, this book is just, oh, I just love this book. Why have I not reread this? Honestly, I think it's because I just don't want to be that heartbroken all over again. And then last but not least, I feel like it wouldn't be a true Rainy moment if I didn't hold up at least one of her books, because I own every single one of her books. And I've read all but 4 of her books, but I'm going to put the one that I think is my favorite, and that is Songs of the Humpback Whale by Jodi Picoult. However, I'm just obsessed with Jodi Picoult as a whole. I love everything that she's written. I will continue to collect everything that she's written. She just is a masterful writer, okay? I just love her so very much. Now, this one specifically is about Jane. I haven't read this in a minute, so I have to read the back. Jane has lived in the shadow of her husband, a renowned San Diego oceanographer, Oliver Jones. But during an escalating argument, she turns on him with an alarming volatility, and in anger and fear, she leaves with their teenage daughter Rebecca for a cross-country odyssey charted by letters from her brother Jolie, guiding them to his Massachusetts apple farm where surprising self-discoveries await. Now Oliver, an expert at tracking humpback whales across vast oceans, will search for his wife across a continent and find a new way to see the world, his family, and himself through her eyes. So it's kind of like a stalker-esque type situation. I love this. And I know a lot of people say that this is like one of her worst books, but I just had the best time with this. However, I just love her as a whole. Like, she is my favorite author of all time, because I just remember reading all these books and just having the best time with them. I need to do a ranking video for her soon, so I need to read the last 4 books. But like, if anything, like Jodi Picoult will always hold very near and dear to my heart. And so those are the 15 books that honestly, I would say define my reading taste pretty well. So if you like any of those books, let me know. In the comments down below, let's put a whale emoji because of Songs of the Humpback Whale. And let me know, did you guess any of these right? Are there any on here that you absolutely agree with that are also like all-time favorite books for you? Are there any on here that you don't agree with? Because I'd love to know that too. But mostly I'd like to know, what is your ultimate book that you think really defines your reading taste well? I want to know so that I can have some more book recommendations, because if they're your favorite book of all time, then obviously they're probably pretty good. So I want to check them out. And with that, I will see you guys in a video very soon. Bye!